Hi teachers, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, we talk everything special education. If that interests you, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe. Today, we are going to be talking about the reason that I quit teaching. If you are watching this for inspiration to quit, that isn't the purpose of this video. This is just my own personal story of why I basically had to quit. And spoiler alert, I really miss teaching and I hope to go back in a few years. I will get into that also. This all started about 5 years ago. I was originally teaching high school special education and I seriously love my job so much. To this day, I still think about my students and wonder how they're doing. Unfortunately, my husband and I had to move to a different state for him to start his training for his job. At the time, this training required him to move every so often for quite a few years. So we moved to a small town in this new state. I obviously had to get a new job, which was really sad since I absolutely loved my old job, all of my coworkers, and my students. I applied at a couple different school systems for a special education position in this area. I was qualified to teach elementary and K through 12 special education. One school system offered me a gen ed kindergarten position and the other school system offered me a special education teacher position. I never imagined myself being a kindergarten teacher and really only had a passion for teaching special education, so I took the special ed position. I knew that high school was my true passion, but you get what you get when you're in a small town. The next step in our move was to find a daycare for our 5-month-old son. There were a few daycare options, and honestly, they all weren't that great. We chose the one that we felt the best about, but we still weren't sure about it. So I started teaching and my husband went back to school. We were paying for daycare and my husband's tuition, which if I can remember correctly was around $60,000 a year. Yeah, pretty crazy. My previous teaching job, I was making about $50,000. Well, guess what my pay cut was when we moved to this new area? It was a $20,000 pay cut. I was only making $30,000 a year with this teaching job. It was pretty disappointing to have such a huge pay cut, and we obviously had to live off of student loans with my husband's tuition being so much money. I also had the Teach Grant, which for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, it's a loan where if you teach in a low income school for so many years, they will forgive your loans. I had $15,000 in loans that I was hoping to get forgiven. We will come back to that. You can keep watching if you want to find out if my student loans got forgiven. Let's continue with this story. As weeks go by, my son is just sick nonstop, just as any daycare kid is. I had to take so many sick days this first year teaching in this new town because my husband couldn't miss his classes and tests and so on. So I had to be the primary caretaker while also having a full-time teaching job. I used so many sick days to take care of my son. I can't remember how many the school provided, but I think it was anywhere from maybe 12 to 15. I used way more than that. My $30,000 salary was slowly becoming less and less. I'm the type of person who feels extremely guilty whenever I let anyone down. So I felt bad for my coworkers and students every time I would have to leave early or call in sick because of my kid. It was really hard. I also just remembered that I was also sick on top of my own child all of the time too. Let me say, there was a huge difference teaching high school versus elementary. The elementary kids were coughing and sneezing all over me all the time, where high school, I never had that problem. It was like I was a first-year teacher all over again. More weeks passed and we started to wonder if our kid was even being taken care of. He had the worst diaper rash that would not go away literally the whole time he was in daycare. I kept reminding the people taking care of him to put the diaper rash cream on him, and I don't think they actually ever did. I then started giving them diapers and counting how many diapers they would use to see if his diaper was ever even being changed, because every time I would pick him up, his diaper would just be huge. I gave them a 20-pack of diapers. I kept waiting to see when they would tell me he ran out of diapers. To the dot, it took them 20 daycare days to tell me he needed more diapers. I realized that within the 8 or 9 hours he was there, they were literally only changing his diaper one time throughout the day. It was disgusting. I then reminded them, of course, multiple times, can you please make sure to change his diaper every hour? And they said they were, but clearly they weren't because I was keeping track. Every day dropping my kid off here was terrible. I started to look into other daycares. Keep in mind, there weren't many options since this was a small town. Then this was the final straw. My son kept getting skin infections. We would take him to the doctor and she told us that the daycare needs to be cleaning their changing area better. There are so many other things that happened that that I don't even want to list off, but I think you guys get the picture. I feel stupid and horrible that my son was at this terrible place for so long. I had so much guilt. It's hard for me to even think back at how horrible I felt. So again, I started looking into other daycares. Every single one is full. I had no options. I couldn't sleep at night, and I wasn't being the best teacher I could be because of how horrible I felt for my own kid. This was about halfway through the school year, so I was just out of options. My only option that I had was to quit my job. I started to research this, and luckily I was a part of the teachers union. I talked to someone there about how I was considering quitting my job in the middle of the school year. And don't get me wrong, I had so much guilt about even the thought of leaving my students and coworkers high and dry like that in the middle of the school year. Well, the rep at the teachers union asked me which district I wanted to resign from, and I told her. She paused for a minute and she said, "I'm really sorry to tell you this, but that district is known for going after teachers who do not fulfill their teaching contract." She said, "You signed a 1-year contract, so you would be liable." And my heart, of course, just dropped. I couldn't handle any more stress in my life. I knew there was no way I could handle going through a lawsuit. Plus, we were super poor. I knew there was nothing I could do. That next week, someone told me that they knew a girl starting a brand new in-home daycare. I was so excited, and I got my son enrolled right away. After a couple months, the daycare opened. My son went there 1 week, and then I get a text from the owner that someone turned her into the state because she had too many kids there. I won't get into details about that, but wow, I couldn't catch a break. She ended up kicking my son out of the daycare since she had too many kids. It was such a crazy and really hard year. That's when I knew that no matter what, I was not teaching the next year. I put in my letter of resignation for the following school year, and I could not be happier. It was a really hard financial decision because I only had 1 more year left of teaching to get all of my loans forgiven. But of course, no amount of money is worth your kid being neglected. We lived really poor and lived off of student loans for the next 4 years. We have so many student loans to this day that I bet you couldn't even guess how much we have. But at least we do have a plan to get them paid down eventually. I now have been a stay-at-home mom for a few years now, and we have 3 healthy boys. We have moved quite a bit for my husband's training. My oldest son, the one who was basically neglected at daycare. By the time he was 5, he had lived in 5 different cities. With all the moving required by my husband's job, it would have probably been hard to continue teaching anyways at this point. But I really did and still miss teaching. Luckily, we are probably only moving 1 more time, but staying in the same city from now on. Since I miss teaching so much, 3 years ago, I decided to start a TPT shop and this YouTube channel. Starting a TPT shop was always a dream of mine, and I absolutely love it. It gives me the feeling like I am still helping people. I definitely want to go back to teaching in the years to come because I really do think it is a big reason as to why I was put here on earth. Working with people with disabilities is definitely my passion, but right now my own kids need me during this short season of life. My youngest is still a baby, but once he goes to school, I want to go back teaching full-time or maybe even subbing. Who knows what the future holds. So there you have it. That is why I quit teaching for the time being. Go ahead and comment below and let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear from you guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. If you are looking for some free resources for your classroom, make sure to check out the links in the description of this video. I love helping you guys out since, I'm not currently in the classroom, so it really does bring me joy when you guys use my resources and when I'm able to provide you with anything that helps you. I have a bunch of activities available in my TPT shop that is called Activiteacher. I hope you all have a fantastic week. Thank you for watching. Happy teaching.